Good. Perfect.
Hey, I always also want to thank Sarah that connected the dots across the Pacific Ocean and made it happen. Good job.
All good, all good. I'm committed to this one for sure. All right. The way we run these meetings is usually we provide a quick update on the work that has happened in the past week. So some of the build work on the prototyping end with Puya, some of the internal work that happens between the various teams on the Woolworth side. So that's all of the integration, etc. And we look ahead at success criteria. How are we tracking against those and timelines? In addition, today we also have a demo about agent learning. So we've been talking about this concept since the beginning, saying that building an agentic system is one thing, but being an agentic system that then can be put in the hands of the business unit and can learn over time and not become obsolete, and can adjust as the rules changes, as people give feedback, without being a burden for technology teams, and have that concept of agent learning over time. We've talked about the concept. We wanted, if we have time, to show you a quick demo of what we mean by that as well. All right, so Puya, quick update on the build activities, and then I'll hand over to Nick, Chris, maybe yourself on the update on the Woolly side.
Great, thank you so much. Let me share my screen. This one, make it slideshow. So basically, there is a summary of what happened last week. So we did this end-to-end pipeline completion. So the initial version of that can ingest the input information and can produce some output which is compatible to what Scare accept. So that is the thing. So we have 10 agents. These 10 agents are organized in 4 main steps: classification, extraction, and those validation, and also the transformation that create the final output. We also did our initial evaluation framework. In general, because we have, somehow we can call it semi-structured output, which is a JSON with constant schema, evaluation shouldn't be that much of challenge. However, because this schema is very complex, and part of that should be, so we are going that what we have as a ground truth shouldn't sometimes taken as ground truth. So there are many scenarios. Sometimes our agent do not have the full picture, so those cases also shouldn't be considered in the evaluation in the same way. So it is not very traditional evaluation framework, but we try with the business team to find out a reasonable ground truth. And this evaluation, what we try is we want to actually evaluate the system against business KPI. That's maximizing the number that the agent could make touchless progress, so input, final output. At the same time, we prioritizing I don't know rather than wrong answer. So basically, we want to have, we are willing to sacrifice recall for better precision, which means that suppress some not confident output, those kind of things. So this is the evaluation that we already have, and it is evolving. And we have this gap analysis. We discussed this before, that because we have this agent and evaluation, we found out what we had in the rule book, it is not complete, or it is not totally aligned with what we have regarding human annotated data. So we see some gap, and we have different approach to handle. So sometimes human was wrong, sometimes human did something unnecessary, or sometimes rule book is incomplete, so we need to act. So there are different scenarios that we need to take. And also we found some gap regarding the, so in that 100 cases we found out sometimes it is get rejected because of the human annotator find out it is already processed, and this piece of information goes out of what we got from Esker. So human directly go uh, to the Maximo system and found out it is already processed by checking the vendor name and invoice number, which there is a repetition and it is a redundancy. So for that one we need we already discussed it with the business team and technical team to how we can resolve that issue. Any question in this regard in general?
No, you can, I think you can go on, Puya. I think the key is this is not one-off. The rule books evolves. What humans do do compared to the rule book evolve, and this is why it's so important that agents continue to learn on the job. That's what Michael is going to present afterwards. But this is not surprising. We expected it.
And here this is another thing. So the learning part, yes, we can always keep it open to have some delta for the future learning. At the same time, we need to have basically reliant base the backbone, the actual thing. So yes, that gap could be open, but we try to basically make it minimum for those kind of exception future based revision that happen in that scenario. So here end-to-end full coverage of the thing, faithfulness check, that's and we did something here because the rule book, the business rules that we got from business is very complex. We got some approach inspired by autoencoder architecture. So we first translate the rule book, those natural language document, to code, to Python code, to those things, and then we reconstruct a rule book based on this code, and then we try to find out whether there is a gap, what are the deviation from the original rule book and reconstructed one to make sure that we are faithful to the rule book. And and the status, the system is now fully capable of processing a document from ingestion to final output, and we did that one. So here we discussed this one, that there is observation. Sometimes we need to ignore historic humans. So we already had a great meeting with Barb and Tom yesterday to find out when we have this delta from human behavior and rulebook, what should be ignored from the human. So basically the ground truth in those specific case, in those specific part, is not ground truth. It doesn't mean that we disregard a number of the cases. It means that for a number of cases, in some aspect, that should be dismissed. For example, sometimes humans have this tendency to aggregate line item in the invoice, so it is unnecessary. This kind of thing we talk about, and for something we found out we need to modify the rule book to bring more kind of rule and condition to make it to handle those scenario. And yeah, this is the Maximo integration that I discussed, and we already discussed with Chris, Nick, and also business team to how we can resolve this issue for that rejected because it's already paid or processed, but we don't have that much of trace of that in the SCAR, in the data that we got. So for the next one, we continue this del eval. So because we have the first thing, we already did a number of cycles here to improve the system, but we continue this one. And this gap resolution, we continue this discussion with business to see how we should enhance our system, and also the evaluation regarding those things that should be ignored. And this technical migration, we are working with the technical technique as Chris to work out how we can address this. Thank you so much.
Right.
I had a question.
Yeah.
When we say from Maximo there's a signal already processed, does that literally mean the invoice has been already processed, or it's a system error?
No, maybe Barb and Tom could, but in my understanding, it is not system error. It means that for these cases, human annotators supposed to do some investigation to the Maximo to see whether this specific case, and what is this specific, what is the identifier, is invoice number and the name of the vendor, if it's already processed or not. Please, Barb and Tom.
It's spot on.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I think actually it's a good segue. So one part of the puzzle is the brains of the system that needs to be accurate and needs to process. The other part of the system is the integration overlay and in the current process. Do we want to? So are there any questions on the specific agent build, or do we also want to pivot the discussion on the rest of the components? What's most useful here, Chris and Nick? Do you want to give an update there?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of an update to give just around timelines, and I've got a bit of a plan on the page to share out with the group here. It's still a work in progress, given that we still have unknowns from the ESCA side, and I don't think we'll have that clear until we hear back from ESCA themselves. But at least it's giving us an understanding of where we're up to and what's going on. So I'll just share my screen, and I'm happy to share this with everyone offline as well. Please, it's also not pretty, so no judgment.
All good. It's much better than a lot of my side.
I'm not sure, Sarah. I should have used Nano Banana to help me make this prettier, but it was no rush. So here we are. So I just wanted to really give us an update of where we're up to, what we've been doing, what our current focus is for the next few weeks, and what our priorities are, and then just that milestone view as well. And I know that the milestones, we still don't have them all locked down yet in terms of dates, and I'll keep adding here with everything that we need to tick off. But I think it's just recapping. We've done our exploratory data analysis. We have our agent rulebook, which Puya is just spoken about. We've also done our solution design, at least the first cut of that. It doesn't have everything that we'd need for the full solution, but it's got enough for us to build this POC and progress through that stage. What our next priorities are is really honing down on this POC build. So Puya and Gopi are collaborating a lot on that at the moment, and we're aiming to have this done by about the 9th of January here. Sorry, I know I've said in this box the 19th of December. I just need to update it with the 9th of January. But that's when we aim to have the builds fully locked down by for this proof of concept. What we need to do then is the actual testing of the proof of concept. And I'm sure Puya and Gopi will be talking probably next week about what that would look like with the team, and setting up expectations for what does testing look like, what requirements do we have, what's the prerequisites. Another thing which is also probably new for everyone here is our agentic review board. We would need to take the solution through that agentic review board, but we'd probably do that in the new year once we understand the integration in tax with ESCA and have a full solution that we can take to that review board. I wouldn't want to take it just now while we're still trying to unpack a few things and finalize it. The whole purpose of this review board, for those who don't know, is to really enable and make it easy for teams to build agents and get them through the whole governance process. So this review board is looking at, there's security, there's data, there's AI best practices, as well as risk and privacy that are making up members of that review board. So instead of us having to go to each of them separately and get endorsement and work through that, we take this agent through the review board, and those reviewers on that board will engage with us through that process and give us their endorsement and work with us on anything else that we need to complete within our solution to make it compliant and really hardy. So that we'll do that in the new year. And then the final thing that we all know about is this ESCA integration piece. Thank you, Paul, for kind of setting us up with the right people from ESCA, and we're just waiting to hear back from them now. And that's really then our whole solution's contingent on that API availability. And then the backup for that is we'll look at the RPA space if the APIs aren't available or can't do what we need.
Yep, agreed. And it would be good to get from ESCA like an API playbook for the version that we have.
Just quickly, thank you for this structure tool. I think it just gives good visibility, right? As we spoke about in the last meeting, right through to go like a production ready solution. So thank you for the full visibility, which is great. If you need a handle with ESCA, just let us know too. You may not, but if you do, the offer's there.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. Much appreciated. Paul, I might give a bit of wait for your steer here on what we might do next with ESCA.
So look, we'll get the information from ESCA, and then I don't think we need a full high-level solution design, but we need a bit of a steer in terms of this is how the solution will look at the component level, and that in terms of the data being shared or extracted from ESCA, how is that going to be managed? Is it well, for instance, from a cyber perspective, that we meet Woolworths thresholds in terms of how that data is managed, and we just do start to build up a progressive high-level design in terms of how will ESCA work with the agentic tools. Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, can I just add to that as well, Nick? You're likely to need an infra design.
Yes.
Paul's point.
Good call,
okay?
Tony. Good call. Yeah.
All right. Because it's the mechanism that we engage with the cyber team, and whether or not we need any network changes, etc. So after the solution design, we need to probably engage with infra, which we can do in parallel with getting the POC done. But you need to get that. It's called a demand request, but you'll need to get the demand request raised.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that.
Tony and Nick, with your understanding of the agent review board, would those be kind of documents that go into the agent review board? Like, because I assume for the agent review board, you submit kind of the solution that the agent is built on, and the outside components. So I guess I'm trying to see, like, is that agent review board kind of documentation covering the other processes that you have, or do they need to be 3 separate processes?
Can I answer Nick first? Is that all right? I would suggest the agent review board is more to determine if it's the right type of thing we're doing. I don't want to invest in an infra design if we're not going to proceed. So the agent review board should be fairly early in the process. Okay, it wouldn't need the infra design. It does need the solution design, which is as Nick has already provided. So that side we're okay. But I think it happens.
Okay.
The infra design can happen in parallel, even after the agent review board. In fact, it should be after the agent review board.
Okay, so that answers one of the questions, because in the agent review board, cyber is involved. So there would be a solution, like, and I think we should have mentioned it as well, actually. Everything that is being done at the moment is within your own enterprise Google Cloud account. It's within your own environment. It's within a GCP project that's managed by Woolworth. So we're all adhering to that. But so I guess, Puya, at some point, we will need a documented solution. I know the code is shared with Gopi and Woolies, but we probably will need a documentation of the solution. And I know you have that in the in one of the outputs for the prototype.
Yeah, and I think Tony's guidance was good there in terms of
if we don't need it.
we'll go to the review board and say this is where we want to go. And to actually bring this into production, there would be a series of exit criteria we'd have to meet, like a cyber sign-off, integration design, high-level design. That's all to come, but that provides the governance around, you know, how we share data, you know, out into other solutions, which is absolutely appropriate.
Okay, great. So we should make sure we're on the front foot, and you guys know your processes much better than me. So application review board, agent review board, and make sure those are not bottlenecks in the process. Yeah. Tony, you've got your hand up.
I think just for this proof of concept though, for between now and end of mid-January when we want to do our testing, none of these things are blockers for what we're trying to do. And it's not going to become blockers in the future, they're just requisites or prerequisites we have to complete and processes that we have to do on Woolly's side to get something into production. So
yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're all aware that this isn't going to block us, this isn't going to be something that we can't go live because of, it's just steps we need to complete.
Agreed.
Understood. And from our perspective, like once the build is complete, testing with, you know, your team and all of that can happen. Like
Yeah, and like the data classification is I think it will be internal data, so which is like the level 3 data classification in Woolworths. It's not restricted, it's not confidential. I think it'll be internal, so that will reduce some of the security thresholds that we need to have in place.
Yeah.
Big time. I've been dealing with restricted and confidential my whole life here at Woolies.
Yes.
So hearing that makes me happy.
I think payment data would be internal. I think it'd be the 3rd level, which helps. It does help in terms of some of the standards that we need to meet in those exit criteria that we just spoke about.
Just a quick one while we're on the internal stuff, Nick. Have you got Kushik's team to do a solution outline? Because that's what
going to be engaged at the moment. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right, and Chris, how ready is the RPA?
Not at all. Like, it's a good start point for what we could build upon, and it's good enough, I think, for the POC, but it's not production ready. It was just built quickly to get the data ready to enable this, and I think we'd readdress a production ready design if it was needed, as soon as we obviously have that indication. Obviously, the sooner the better, so we can plan that in and make sure we can lock in some resources, but I don't necessarily want to lock in and have people spending time on a solution that may not be needed just yet.
Okay. The only challenge I have is that the RPA solution is pre-approved, so we can do it without any challenges. The depending on the availability of architects and resources in Soy, it may impact us being able to utilize the API without, and that infra design process can take several months, up to, I'm going to say up to 3. So it's just a question. We're going to need to make a decision fairly soon as to whether or not we actually, I'll say production ready the RPA solution as a very temporary solution without over investing in it. It will depend upon the availability of the Soy resources though. Okay.
One, Tony, sorry, I don't quite understand the detail of that.
Red light, camera ahead.
Maybe we just take it offline, but it'd be good to understand that 3-month piece, right? Because it doesn't look, Nick, in line with the timeline. I don't know if it's dependent on or not. I don't know if they're the same things. There's an interdependency there on a production-ready solution.
Yeah, look, Tony, I'd like us just to understand first the ESPA component before we try and look at the whole thing here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we can talk about it with Kushik. There's no issues. All right.
Okay. All right.
Are there any other components or topics that need to be discussed before we show you what we mean by agents learning on the job. And it's, this is just to start planting the seed about, in a further phase, we'll incorporate some of these elements so that what is being built doesn't become obsolete, but learns on the job and takes business feedback. Are there any other topics, though, that anyone wants to raise before we show this to you?
Oh, good.
Okay, so Michael is then going to take over, and I cannot emphasize how important this is, and you're the first ones within Woolies to, think about applying this, but this is something that will be relevant for the agents that you build in supply chain, in finance, in legal, in many of the other functions. A lot of these systems will need to evolve with business feedback over time versus being a burden for the tech teams and requiring engagement with the tech team constantly as the policies and rules changes. And I think, Tony, actually, you raised that a few weeks ago, so we wanted to show this to you. Michael, over to you.
So Sarah did a remarkable job explaining the concept and why agent cannot be stuck in time, and they need to learn and evolve because, there are many shortcuts and tribal knowledge in the organization, and the agent needs to catch up on that. Now, what we are going to show you is a generic architecture pattern that fits into many, many different use cases. And the latest announcement of Gemini 3 brought a completely new dimension to the topic of learning, and you'll see that in the demo. Basically, Gemini 3 knows everything that needs to be known on the finance world, accounting, and the only missing piece is the tribal knowledge and the undocumented policies. And let me go ahead. By the way, I'm showing you an agent which is invoice to pay. How it operates, and in a second you will see it will fail, and how with the help of human, the tribal knowledge, it learns and becomes better. And this is a Jupyter notebook. It's an environment, easy environment to run code. First, we'll start with what we call the happy path, the golden invoice. I'm loading it from a file, sorry for not rendering the invoice. It's an invoice, supply name, totals. And the agent start looking at the invoice, it finds the PO, it finds the contract, it start running validation. There are 12 different validation, amount, supplier name, matching to the PO, terms of the contract, and the agent decide this is approved. It's all working and fine. But as we know, this is the happy path. And now we'll show one situation in which the PO, you guys see the screen all right?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So there is a purchase order, it's $150 unit price, and the invoice is $140. Now the agent was programmed to match the amounts exactly, with maybe tolerance of 0.1%. However, a human, in this case, will approve this invoice because there is extended partnership discount, 7% discount for commitment for 12 months. So the tribal knowledge of this organization is actually to approve. But if we run the agent on this invoice, the invoice to pay, you will see that it did find the PO, the contract, it ran validation, supplier name, line items, all the validation, but it failed because it didn't like the fact that the totals are mismatched. Now, I'm showing this error, if you will, as an example. It can be many, many different factors. Maybe, in Australia, in your environment, there are other style of errors, but for the demo purpose, we assume that. Now, the agent generate an exception, and says, hey, I rejected, this is the invoice, this is the PO, all the information, and explains why. Now, the cool stuff starts here as there is a learning agent that read the exception, read all the information, says, hey, what happened here? And he presents this information either in an email or in a certain UI to, say, Barbara or someone from finance and ask for a feedback. Is it really need to be rejected, or I'm missing something? And here the feedback is, hey, Mr. Agent, there is 7% discount with clear explanation in the notes section. And this is from Francine Crockett, from finance department. So something really interesting is happening here. The LLM tried to understand what is the new rule that it should apply. It doesn't take only the feedback, but ask, what does it mean clear explanation? Do I need to look for specific keywords, phrases, reason codes? It probes into the learning that it needs to extract and how generalizable it is. And Francine answer, all reasons you stated are sufficient, okay, use your reasoning. And just follow industry best practices. Now, of course, you guys can say, just suppliers from Australia accept that, or whatever other criteria. Now, the learning agent keep probing and ask for the scope of this rule. Does this 7% discount apply to all suppliers or only valid for specific lists? So you see, it acts like a super knowledgeable accounting person, and Francine is answering all suppliers. I limit the questions to 3. This is the last one. He asked about tax, or is it valid a discount for each line item, and gets the answer. But you understand how the process goes, and there is a distillation of a knowledge here. Although it's a simple example, again, there is a knowledge that was built into the system. I called it tribal knowledge nugget. It's stored in the knowledge of the agent. Without engineering, changing the agent, the code, now the agent gain an element of memory that he can apply. The good thing is, we talk a lot in the agent industry about trust. Now, the trust is controlled by the domain expert, the finance team. They decide how much this knowledge should be generalized or not. Should it be very specific? Should it be broad? The criteria, etc. And now we just show the knowledge entry. Think about a database that has tags, that has the specific of the knowledge. Now, the cool thing is it's ready for audit. It's ready for human review, for a CFO review, because it's very clear where this knowledge is located. It's not embedded in some model or weights that no one can explain. So it's compliance ready, if you will. Okay, let's check the agent with this new knowledge. You see there is another invoice, and here there is a different keyword, additional notes or description, not like what we had before, a different reason for the discount. And let's see how the agent will treat it. Basically, it reads the rejected invoice, which is the new one, goes to the knowledge book, look through all the knowledge entries. It did find one knowledge entry that applies, that we have just taught it. And it says, hey, this invoice is approved, and it's explaining why and what's the reasoning step. Again, fully auditable and ready for human supervision. And this is the centerpiece of the learning of the agent. Of course, this is a simplified version, but the key, it's completely controlled by humans, completely auditable, but the agents still learn and become better and adjust to the environment. Let me stop here before I move ahead. And by the way, it applies to everything from forecasting to reconciliation, to cash flow, forecast, supply chain, legal. The architecture is essentially the same. The humans will be different, and the experts will be different, and the knowledge built is different, but this is the same, because the model are very, very good challenging the human and extracting the knowledge with very specific and guardrails and embedded it in the knowledge base. You guys have questions?
No, that's amazing.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
It's very good. Where is it stored such that we can change it in the future? If we
Wonderful
need to?
question. So, I'm in the office of the CTO, so I don't decide. It's a on-prem database or BigQuery. The implementation detail is will be fungible. But think about the database. I'll show you the example of how it looks like. Each entry will have this format. It will have a rule ID. It was business policy. I would say it's fairly fair to say it will be stored in some sorts of relational database with very fast query time, so the agent can query it and retrieve. Now, another point I'd like to make: the knowledge base is per agentic flow. So I expect it to have hundreds to thousands of entries. It won't be the complete tribal knowledge of all the organization. It will be for invoice to pay. Supply chain process will have a different. So therefore, you don't need extremely fast indexing or vector database. Tribal knowledge, has a limit. How much shortcuts humans have, or what they have in the Excel sheet or notebook. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
I hope so.
Anyone from the finance team, does that resonate to you? Claire.
It's so cool. It is so cool. We're watching this whole thing and I'm going, this is really cool. End to end, and I know that it's already set up, but you look at 3 to 5 minutes of perhaps to training an exception that right now we're asking humans to remember. We're physically asking our team to remember 60 plus exceptions in this Maximo space, and you can train this into an agent and they'll continue to remember and continue to adapt and learn. Where our team, we're already having to push back on W360 to go, hey, there's actually enough rules. We can't put any more in this space right now because we can't expect the team to remember this. And we could actually train an agent to do this for us. This is such an exciting frontier, and it will literally change the way we do things.
Claire, this is a brilliant observation. We may want to offer you a job in the city office. but you pointed very well that this knowledge base is actually the organization memory.
Mm.
And eventually, there will be many entries here. There will be entries that
Correct.
correlate. So there will be an agent that says, hey, I have 2 entries relating to tax. I can merge them to one in a clever way. Or, God forbid, I have 2 entries or 4 entries that contradict themselves. What should I do? I'll send an email to Claire to find what is the most current answer. So that's actually... what's coming next when this knowledge base starts growing and needs some cleanup, like a memory. And, just to give you another example, you can query this knowledge base and see how many times each knowledge nugget was called. So you see, for example, invoice without contract from suppliers 4 times. They were very, very pronounced. So you may want to focus on that. And supplier names are considered equivalent. So supplier names, they're different. So, and finally, of course, we have an agent that look at this memory or this organization and give you a report, what to do next. For example, maybe we need to change the questions to the humans and to retrieve data. Maybe we need to optimize the agent. Maybe we need to go back to Puya and said, hey, you need to change the agent because it rejects in not a proper way. So a lot of cool stuff.
I think Hobart, you had your hand up. Did you?
Well, I guess one of the things I just wanted to call out that, as Claire was saying, but I think you covered it, Michael, was just around as you're training this with new rules, the fact that the agent can point out to you that the new rule you've asked for is contradictory to an existing rule, or kind of pointing out to you that you're asking for things that are not compatible with existing rules, to kind of make sure that it flags with you. Whereas obviously if you say to a person, they'll probably take on that new piece of knowledge and apply that exactly as you've asked for it, but it may break other pieces of knowledge that are in your notes as well. Whereas it's obviously front and center here in one central space where you know that.
Yeah. So another brilliant question. So actually, I made myself a shortcut when I presented you the learning process. And if I show it again here, when the learning agent asks for feedback and create a question, you see processing here, it looks at all the knowledge base, prior knowledge, and formulate a question based on the exception and what he learned. So example, if someone said, hey, never approve discount, we need to look at the contract and have a meeting with the CFO, he will ask, hey, I had a clear direction not to approve discount. Why you're giving me this discount? But I agree with you, because human can give conflicting directions to agents. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But the dynamic questions and the knowledge retrieval of the LLM is very clever. It looks at the prior, all the knowledge base, and formulate the specific question. Maybe Francine will answer, yeah, you're right. Only discounts from fresh vegetable suppliers should be approved. All other, I agree with other human feedback. But yeah, there is a very interesting interplay between the agent and the experts.
I had a question about GST, and I don't know if this is something worth to pursue. If we need like a GST agent, because GST is calculated on a line-by-line basis, but when you actually look at the invoice as a whole, sometimes the GST won't be 10% of the invoice value. And we've had some other applications in the past that run into some logic challenges with that. But it's a question, not a statement, if we need to think that through as we build out this solution. But as I said, it's a question on notice. It's not a statement.
Yeah. Claire?
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. We have some GST rulings in relation to some of our invoices, which is in the details that we sent on to the Google team. So there is specific rulings around certain suppliers and how we apply their GST. So that's already written in there. But
Okay,
from a
great.
wider lens, 100%, we probably could look at it.
Okay.
Good. And
Actually, to correlate again to this question, the agent can learn, of course, from domain expert, but if you have a new GST ruling, new policies, or you have new management directive, new approval chain, a new threshold, this can flow also to the learning agent without the domain expert, and he can modify the knowledge entries based on the new policies. So we start with the human expert, but yeah, it's ready for maybe new compliance across Australia requirements, what have you. It's all also learnable.
Okay. We have Agent Owen being built. That's linked to GST, Tony. Yeah.
Just one thing regarding the GST, that what we already receive and how we interpret, and this goes back to what we are going to communicate back to business. So we found out for the cases that there is no GST, what should be default. So sometimes the GST is explicit, cool, But if it is not, so if it is not, we consider that GST should be included. And regarding, because we have AU, Australia, New Zealand, and they have different GST thing, so we apply the default thing. So all those things are something that we embed in our system, which is not explicitly in the initial rulebook. And because of that, we have this reconstructed rulebook that have this thing. And we communicate back to you. And also we do this kind of review that what is the delta between that one and the one that we actually implemented, and go forward. And yeah, and this is the exactly something that we try to address with that learning platform, because nothing can be assumed as constant forever. So yeah.
Okay.
I am personally extremely excited about this, because this is something that the learning of the agents that will then be applied to any other business unit within Woolworth, building agents. Like the one thing we want to ensure we do is build systems that evolve over time and don't require, an entire massive team outside of the, finance domain experts to evolve as their rules and their business rules evolve. So that's from at the back of our mind from the get-go. Any last and final? No? Well then...
Sorry, I have one question for Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is more broad than just this piece of work. What would you say are the key skills for the finance team thinking ahead, multiple agents into the future? What are the skills that the team need, thinking about invoice processing in particular being a lesser part of their role, and obviously more so managing agents?
That's a very interesting question. Not necessarily I'm 100% correct, but I would say ability to talk with AI in its native language will be a top skill. So, the top skill, of course, to write prompts, to detail what you request from the agent in a very detailed prompt to provide all the information. But, for example, teaching the agent, understand that agent use AI and can misinterpret your feedback, generalize too broadly, or be very specific. So I think communicating with the AI will be different than a human, and I think this would be top skills. I think...
Michael, Michael, is that still natural language queries?
Yeah. I think finance people and back office people and legal and supply all will stay with natural language. By the way,
it's not low code; it's natural language.
No. I don't think. I don't think low code, or I don't think it's needed.
It's natural language.
Yeah, it's natural language, but you need to. AI is extremely smart, but it needs the right context. So if you deprive it from information and assume he'll get it, so I think that's very important. There are other nuances, how to design agent. For example, each agent should be very specific to a role, and you can... finance people will be able very soon to create agent on their own by just writing what they need, just a prompt. But it won't be for complex workflow. It will be, I want every morning to get the latest of the stock market in Australia and point out if my investment did so and so, give me a chart, all of that. But I think that's the answer I have.
Yeah, Michael, I had a follow-on question. So and I'll use the word personas. So do you have you have one agent that has a broad capability, or within the P2P solution, we would have a number of agents that are fine-tuned to do one area very well, like the GST example we just discussed.
Yeah.
Already the system Puya is building for this process has a series of discrete agents all orchestrated, but he's already building several agents for several tasks.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%. It's good for controllability, for evaluation. It's important for scale. Even sometimes you will need to separate the agents and do agent-to-agent protocol. Sometimes you cannot allow each agent to access your SAP, or so you need to separate the bots. There are many, but absolutely. Specific agent doing one or two tasks with one tool, very important design pattern.
I had another question, and so in terms of our business process then, and you might have answered this already in previous sessions, so we need to be very clear about our process and what agent participates at what step of the process, and there's like a handoff, or you wouldn't have 3 agents working on the same business process. It's quite a one-to-one relationship, like at a sub-business process level, you have one agent, and we want to be clear about what that sequencing is.
I think so. You might have critiquing agent, which is another interesting pattern. You have an agent and you have another agent with adversarial relationship with the working agent that try to find errors or making sure the answer is perfect. But typically, I would say you have each sub-process one multi-agent system working. I think that's the pattern.
Yeah, it sounds like it's likely to be one-to-one, but if we needed a multi-approach, we would take advice from Google on that.
And I think one of the things we're trying to do as well is ensure we have the right cross-functional team, so that when we move to the next process in finance, or when we move to a similar process in supply chain, then there is repeatability or reusability of what has been built, and you're not constantly reinventing the wheel for each business unit. I think we're trying to do that.
Actually, I may miss a note in your question, which I'm sorry, it was deeper than I thought. The agents may discover that there is opportunity for business process optimization. I missed that, sorry. So it may discover, because once business processes are designed for agents, they can do many things that human could not. They work 24/7, query time, processing time. So if you were asking about that, yeah, there is a potential there will be 10x efficiency because the agent find a new way to reconstruct the business process. So this is another important detail.
Good, thanks, Michael. My question was about us needing to understand our business process really well, because our vendors have business processes as well.
Yeah.
And so the business process, if we change it, that's a like SME, very well considered decision. So we don't end up with like our business process then starts to get in the way of the AI agent. That's what my thinking is.
Okay, yeah.
And our vendors have business processes as well. So just being clear on that process so that we maximize the opportunity and don't end up confusing the agents if we change our business process.
Yeah.
I think there's so much to still discuss in terms of, like, right now we selected one almost isolated finance process, as the first cab of the rank. But then in terms of what's next, what would benefit next, like there's so much internally to be discussed. That's not going to be our decision. Like we're the technical enabler. That's Claire. That's something that needs to be thought through.
It was more for me just understanding from a risk point of view that how my takeaway from this part of the discussion is we need to be very clear on our business process, and changing the business process is a very serious thing for us to think through as we start to use these tools. Clay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you. And look, I think when we first took this on, we did do a bit of a risk assessment around what this would look like. And this is probably why we've chosen Maximo and ESCA, given it does have the most stringent rules. in this space and what this looks like. And I think too, like you're spot on, like how do we apply this to other processes that we do? You know, we've got a lot of processing in our space. It's not just ESCA. You know, we've got a lot of different system tools. So I think we've tried to be as generic as we can while really tailoring to ESCA as much as possible as well.
Yeah, Claire, you've probably naturally gone with ESCA because it's repeatable, it's predictable, it's got some features that are well suited to agentic AI as opposed to another business process in another part of Woolworths that could be just completely random. It changes every time. Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to build upon that, Claire, when I guess we're thinking about those other processes. So ESCA, good choice, I think, for this one. When we think about building that integration, though, from agent to system, say ESCA in this case, there'll be ongoing value. So once we've got that connection to SAP, whether it's one process or 5 processes to SAP, that integration exists. So you actually get this kind of continual value out of that investment of creating that integration. So that's meant to think about as well, like, is there ongoing benefit of that integration, or is it one and done for this process as well? When we think about selecting processes, that is.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
All right, we're at time. Thank you for the good discussion today again, and looking forward to seeing everyone next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Chat soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.